I get into today's episode, I want to introduce you to my new brand, Enso. Enso is here to disrupt the waxing industry, and we have just launched our first product called the Enso Duo. It is a first of its kind self-stirring wax warmer. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Enso Duo is a dual warmer that is able to stir your wax at a perfect consistency. And if that wasn't enough to wow you, we also have copper inserts for not only a beautiful updated aesthetic, but also for antimicrobial benefits. This is made by an esthetician for estheticians with its custom design. It is truly here to solve many frustrations with our current wax warmers today. With custom wax holders and a one-of-its-kind design, it is truly something to be seen. So check it out on ensowax.com. And pre-sale is happening until September. So click the link in my bio to find out how you can save up to $400 today on the Enso Duo. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Waxing Podcast. I am your host, Kirsten, and I'm really excited to bring on our next guest today, which is Shannon, and she is our co-founder today, talking on behalf of Pomp Beauty. So welcome, Shannon.
Thank you for having me, Kirsten. Great to be here.
Yes, thank you. I'm always excited to bring brands onto the podcast, more importantly, because, you know, I know you were at the show, but it spreads awareness to all of the resources that estheticians truly do have in our community beyond just trying to like find brands themselves and things like that. So I love your platform because you have such a great engaging website for people that, you know, it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Before we get started, do you want to just do like a tiny intro into what is Pomp Beauty? And then we'll, of course, go a little bit backwards as we talk about, you know, your journey starting the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Pomp is a platform and software that really supports estheticians, med spas, the broader aesthetics industry. We've built a fantastic software. So we kind of like to say, use your booking platform and we're everything else. So we have on-platform messaging so you can follow up with all of your clients. We have customized routines, client notes, so you can keep track of everything all in one spot. And then I think what really makes us unique and what's so core to our business is we have a medical director. And with that, we give a lot of access to the professionals that may not have access to a medical director, some of that oversight and education. And because we have a medical director, that actually gives us access to a lot of skincare lines that if you are an independent professional or esthetician, you might not have access to a lot of those lines, or they may require you to have a big opening order. And for us, we have partnered with now over 20 aesthetic, cosmeceutical, medical grade skincare lines that are all now available to estheticians and professionals to recommend to their clients without holding inventory. We drop ship, so that's pretty key to our platform amongst everything else that I just mentioned.
I love how you said that you guys kind of hold these big minimum order accounts for people so that they don't have to place them themselves, because I know firsthand what it feels like to want to bring on a brand because I like a few of their products. I don't have, necessarily the clientele to withhold some of these big order spends. And so it's really nice to have a platform like yours where you essentially have a virtual shelf where it's not something you have to keep on store, but you can send your client right to a space and then get the commission and the perks of having the line yourself.
Yeah. And I would say too, to that point, we really want to help facilitate that relationship outside of the treatment room. So you're already doing such phenomenal work in person, but then what happens when your clients leave? And that's really where we want to step in and be a supporting platform with a lot of the resources and software we've built, but then also with the product recommendations and the skincare that they should be using outside of that treatment room.
Well, and I kind of love that because too, we live in such a virtual universe these days. Like we're constantly online, we're constantly talking to people that may not be from your community and coming in to see you. They may be 50 miles away or even 140 miles away, but they like love and trust you as an esthetician and they trust your content. And I think that's really cool that you guys have provided a place for estheticians to be able to you know, refer them to products that they can buy. Again, it's just another, I always talk about how big it is to have multiple streams of revenue in your business because, it just holds so much more cushion for you in those months that you're not with a lot of clients. And so having like an online revenue stream come in that supports, through the Pomp Beauty, I think is like really cool. And I think that's awesome. So thank you for providing
Yeah.
that feature for estheticians. Like it's
Yeah,
always really cool
absolutely.
to get that support. And I know right now we're going through like a really big movement of estheticians kind of looking within these brands that are supporting estheticians and really making sure that they are going that 360 route to do that. So I think that Pomp Beauty is a perfect example of a place that does that.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
So before we, of course, get more into the details of how you can be a part of your community, I do want to take some time to just really talk about your beginning story and what started this whole process of wanting to start your own company for estheticians. So what is a little bit of your background in terms of beauty and how did you get interested in it?
Yeah, so I've really been interested in beauty and skincare specifically since like as long as I can remember. In junior high and high school, I struggled with really problematic skin, acneic skin. So that
Mm.
really was my first introduction to figuring out what products would work and really starting to dive into the industry and just becoming interested in it. And then beyond that, I started my career in beauty. So I was more on the brand side, so working with a lot of brands that you might know of that are in Sephora and Ulta and a lot of the more like mass beauty retailers. And I was working with pretty much every retailer that you could, getting frustrated with the industry for a lot of reasons. I have such a love for it, and I think it is such an impactful industry, but there are also a lot of challenges and problems, in my opinion. And I think from the brand side, it's if you weren't constantly innovating and using traditional influencers or retail, it was really hard for a brand to survive. And then from the professional side, I felt like they were completely overlooked and fragmented. And then kind of wrapping up my frustration, I was struggling with really bad adult hormonal acne. And quite frankly, the products that I was representing, they weren't all working for me, and it wasn't a one size fits all. And that's when I really started working with an on a piece of paper. She wrote down what my skincare routine should be. And for me, that was this light bulb moment of, okay, wait a second. Here we have a group of professionals who've gone to school. They have the education, they have the influence, like the true influence to make really fantastic recommendations. And yet they're kind of just overlooked in a very crowded beauty industry, whether it's like a retailer, new brand coming out, or a new MLM brand that's, coming out where, it's just making it difficult for a lot of these professionals to break through the mold. And so for me, that was something where it's like, how do we build a company, a platform, giving these professionals not only the tools to help support their business, make additional income, but how do we also create a broader brand awareness to the aesthetics industry as a whole and why people should be getting recommendations from licensed estheticians versus, a friend recommendation.
Yeah, like anybody, TikTok. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you said like MLM and all that stuff. And it is so crazy how gullible like people are on a daily basis to like what information is correct versus not. Like you have no idea how many times I've flipped through like TikTok where people are like, I swear by olive oil, it is like the top
Mhm.
tier, like, and I'm just like, okay, you already had good skin. Like you're probably not going to be adverse or reactive to anything. You're one of those people who could probably sleep every night with makeup and wake up
Yep.
and it's figured out, right? But like you're so right with it, with a space of such crowded information, people really get a little bit lost in who's correct and who's not. And the truth is that estheticians, especially, the ones that take, the skin philosophy so serious, I mean, they are really equipped with some great information and intel. And I loved how you had hormonal acne and then seeked an esthetician finally after working for all of these mass brands and realizing that it isn't a one size fits all. And what I always realize with these mass brands is that, they rely really heavily on marketing before they do results. Whereas I feel like a lot of these smaller brands who are tailored to estheticians spend all of that marketing money into like actual research and like,
And results.
so,
Yeah.
and results. And so, yeah, you may not see them on an Ulta shelf, but you can be assured that once you go to a professional and they, tailor you to one of these skincares, you really do see results. Did you see really good results with your esthetician? Were you like blown away?
I did. Yes. And that is something. So I mean, now we are working with hundreds and hundreds of professionals. And that's, I would say, one of the top things that they say is they care so much about their clients and seeing results. And it's not necessarily going to be, the new hot item on TikTok or the new
Yeah.
hot brand coming out. It's like these are products that they're recommending and they're truly effective and they're so passionate about seeing results for their clients, and that's what we continue to hear from as well from them.
Now, it's really interesting, and I've kind of come into this world where I am, talking to more people who are starting their own brands and really kind of doing things a little bit differently. And as we both know, there's not a lot of people like you who are doing these like third party software, Pomp Beauty for people. So, like, tell me a little bit about kind of how you emerged in the industry. Like, how did you get the name out there, and what do you feel like was like the biggest way? Was it like, I know I saw you at the show, for instance. Like, I would love to know a little bit about that story.
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, we are still very much a startup. We were bootstrapped. We launched March of 2020. So some say, a good month to launch. Some say you're crazy to launch. So we're still very much like a new company. We don't spend a lot in marketing. I think for us, it's truly the testimonies of the professionals or the clients, and then have really using them to spread the word about what we're doing. And I think that's what has been so impactful on helping us start to spread that word. And the show in Vegas, that was our first show we've ever
Oh,
attended.
wow.
Yeah, we wanted to
It
check it
it
out.
looks so, I mean, that's literally how I saw you guys. I was walking by and I'm like, I've heard of that, and I don't
Yeah.
know much about it, but like it was intriguing to see you guys there. And so what a testimonial for you that Vegas might have worked.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so funny that was your first show. I had sworn you guys had been around before. So, word of
No,
mouth really does work.
yeah, that was our first big show.
Yeah, and it's so crazy, so busy. Did you guys have a great turnout for the show? I've worked my first one this year in New York, and I will say it's like entirely draining, but like in a really positive way. Like it's like the best way you can say it.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. Draining in the best way possible. And we didn't know what to expect. We actually have a lot of our brand partners that we work with were there. And so it was really great just to see our our brands, connect with them, connect with other professionals and estheticians, and also just getting live feedback is really helpful. And it was great.
Ye- So, who in terms of estheticians do you mostly service? Are you in more of like the skincare field? Of course, this is the waxing podcast. So, there's people that, have waxing specific businesses. I know too, like a lot of waxers, even though people think that the only products that they're using is just like a pre and post care in terms of like waxing, but a lot of estheticians that are in this industry actually do what's called like vajacials, where they're doing facials on the Brazilian area and using a lot of these medical grade products. And so, whenever we talk about selling them to clients, especially as a waxer, I kind of love the idea of telling people that, like, you don't have to all the time buy all these products for all these different parts of your body. Sometimes, something you're putting on your face is working as well. And so it's like that 2-for-1. If a client's dealing with hyperpigmentation on the face, but also maybe dealing with post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation on the body, it can be a really great, 2-for-1. And so for me, and how I was saying that earlier to you, that it's hard sometimes when you want to bring a skincare line in, but you only really want like their hyperpigmentation serum.
Yes.
I love that you guys offer a place that I can say, hey, we don't carry it in store, but we have it on our website or, on the website to purchase. So tell me a little bit about, and I think I think I asked you a question earlier, but now I'm like going into a new question. But tell me about like the process of the esthetician handing over the information for Pomp Beauty. Do they have their own like link? Is it like a discount code? Like how does that transfer happen with esthetician to client to Pomp?
Yeah, so we've actually set it up a few different ways. So we have some estheticians who don't really like social media, aren't really on social media, and they are truly all in person. And in that instance, they would, let's say you do a waxing or you do a facial or another type of treatment. After that treatment, they would go ahead and just invite you to Pomp. So you as a client are always connected to your esthetician. All they have to do is fill in first name, last name, and email, and then the client gets an invite to Pomp from their esthetician. And then what's really cool about that is that's where the client can message the esthetician. They have a unique and different experience than just like an e-commerce shopping experience. And then from the esthetician standpoint, that's when they can actually build out the whole digital or virtual routine. So let's say it was a facial, they recommend a whole new AM and PM routine. They can build all that out with the steps and the products associated. Or to your point, if it was like a waxing treatment and they want a specific hyperpigmentation product, they would just add that into the client's treatment room and have notes. And then that's where the client could then order and transact. So that's one way. And then let's say the esthetician has a huge digital presence. We have unique URLs for them. So let's say they're trying to get more clients and build their clientele. They can use our link to add more clients and do the virtual recommendations that way. And so we have a few different ways where they can invite new or existing clients into their kind of like onto their platform.
I'm noticing too, more than ever, obviously the pandemic. And actually, you said this earlier, and I'm going to answer it for you. You said you guys launched in March of 2020, and you didn't know if it was like the worst idea ever or the best. But I really think it might have been the best idea ever because so many people were then turning virtually to find answers.
Yes.
Like between, March of 2020, I live in Florida, so we weren't one of those states that stayed closed for very long. But I remember in those short months that we were closed, I had probably sold more product than I had ever sold before in that period of time because so many clients were just like, we're home. We want to, up our skincare. We're looking at our skin and realizing that, I don't know, maybe they didn't have access to like the mall anymore or Sephora or Ulta except for online. But then at that purpose, why wouldn't they just go to their esthetician? Because the shipping will be the same, So to answer your question, I think that that actually was like a genius time for you to launch,
Yeah.
even though it might have not seemed like it. But like looking back on it, I'm like, wow, virtual appearances were so necessary then. But
Yeah.
where I was getting with that is, we have a lot of virtual estheticians these days. And I think that that really came from that pandemic and being like, we can assess the skin, asking the right questions, getting the right pictures, understanding that client in a more, deeper way, since you have that like connection between screens and not in person. And so this seems like such a great program and platform for that exact thing, because they can essentially stick that client into that portal, offer them all of these skincare lines that may not be accessible to them, and
Yes.
provide so many different routines.
Yeah, and I think to that point, we're not here to take away business, or we're truly here to be an asset and almost create a passive revenue stream, because we have everything built in on Pomp to support replenishment and reorders and reminders on behalf of your esthetician. And we try to keep that dynamic and relationship very front and center. And I think once estheticians get it and they realize, oh my gosh, just adding this into my business or alongside, it helps with client retention, results, and then obviously the income piece, also access to a lot of these products that may require a medical director, and we actually have access to them. And then we're also building out an esthetician community too. And so that's been something that's been just really cool to see and be able to foster community, so that's just been really kind of heartwarming to see that grow as well.
Yeah, and that's cool coming from a brand, because it's so true. Like the community is so necessary for, I feel like, estheticians to feel important to these brands that are growing. And so it's really cool to have you guys building the community within the platform. I think that's awesome. Now I of course have ventured onto the website and looked between like all of the different options that people have. And so when you go onto the website, I love the fact, because I always say not all estheticians are built the same. Some estheticians are just starting, some estheticians are in their own suite and booked and busy, and then some people have a whole brick and mortar storefront where they have employees. So do you want to talk a little bit about the different tiers of Pomp Beauty, and kind of where people fit into each one?
Yeah, and I would say to that point, what everything we build at Pomp, or every brand partner that we work with, is truly coming from the estheticians and their recommendations and how they would like to run their business. So I think where we have done a really good job so far and will continue to get better is we can really fit into however you're running the business. So let's say you only want to use Pomp to follow up with your clients and use the on-platform messaging. Fantastic. That's part of our basic free tier. That's already included. Let's say you want to have all access to all of our skincare lines and really get trained and educated on 20 plus medical grade skincare lines. Great, we can do that too. We have trainings, we have live trainings by the brand. You have access to then create routines for all of your clients. And then I would say lastly, part of this like customized routines and more advanced client engagement feature would be really building out the full routine in a customized way. So that would be our elevated tier. And that also includes the community. And then we have built tons of social media assets, email templates that we just want to take off a lot of that lift for professionals. And we've built that for them that they can just copy and paste, send to their clients, use on social. So we've built a lot to really fit in with how estheticians and professionals would want to use Pomp, and you could kind of piece it together.
Now, I did see a feature on there, and correct me if I'm wrong. And I saw a spot where, as a consumer, not an esthetician, you can actually go onto the Pomp website and find an esthetician.
Yes.
And I would love to talk about that a little bit because, obviously when you invite your own client on, that's great. They're with you. But like, is there an opportunity to get your hands on new clients virtually through like a Find Your Esthetician? Like, how does that work?
Yes, and that is something that we are continuing to grow. So right now, if you are a client, you don't have an esthetician, you can go fill out a skincare survey, and then we'll match you with one of our estheticians. Those estheticians do have to be trained on all product lines. So if they want, they will want to, these estheticians will want to have more clients and take on more clientele. So we do require some additional training just on the platform nuances and all the brands. But we do have that available for estheticians who want more clients. And then a future state of Pomp, and I'm going to just put it out there, as my co-founder would say, just put it in the universe.
Yeah.
In the next year or so, we really want to build out more of that in-person matching. So being able to, if you are an esthetician based in Atlanta and you specialize in acne, and we are then able to match you with new clients, not only virtually now, but also drive them to your treatment room. So that is a future state and goal of ours as well.
Which is brilliant. I mean, I think that that's amazing. I mean, I almost said you have no idea, but you do have an idea because you're building it out. But like, you have no idea how many people will say, like, that they wish they would have found me sooner, or they wish, they would have found another esthetician sooner. And so being able to bridge that gap and hopefully find the right esthetician for the right people just off the bat, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, for everybody who is interested in, Pomp Beauty, wanting to know more information, can you let everybody know where they can find you and then the website?
Yeah, absolutely. So we love personal connections, so you can feel free to shoot me an email directly. It's just Shannon at Pomp Beauty, SHANNON at pompbeauty.com. And then if you want more information, just go to pompbeauty.com. So Pomp is like pomp and circumstance, POMP beauty.com, and then click on the For Professionals link, and then that's where you can sign up, learn more about the different tiers and everything that we have to offer.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Shannon, so much for coming on here today and taking the time to teach people about, I think, a really cool and exciting platform.
Yeah.